So I want to welcome you this evening to our May Siouxland Small Business Soiree. And we have three great speakers for you tonight. So our first speaker is going to be Stacie Anderson, and she is the owner and publisher of Siouxland magazine, amongst many other things. So I'm very interested to hear her story, and thank you for being here, Stacie. Go ahead.
Thank you for having me, Sherry. It's great to be here with all of you tonight. So you asked me to speak a little bit about kind of my why, like how I got started in Siouxland magazine and why I do what I do. So as far as how I got into this, I only had the business for about a year and a half. And it was literally a split-second decision. I had just left a Toastmasters meeting with another Toastmaster, and we were walking to our cars, and she turns to me and says, "I'm considering buying Siouxland magazine, but I was curious if you would be a writer." And without even fully processing, I said, "No, but if you want a partner, I'm in." And she kind of laughed and went, "Oh my gosh, I would love that even more, but I never in my wildest dreams thought that you would want to do that." And so anyway, that's just the kind of funny short of it. But the reason, looking into that, why I made that decision, why I made it so quickly, was because I have spent basically a lifetime getting to really know who I am and why, what my why is. And I think that that is so important for all of us. We all really need to take time to reflect and to really think about what drives us, what are we passionate about. And for me, it has always been creating conversation, really good conversation. So I had lost my mom at the age of 9. She had gone out for a walk down Country Club just a couple weeks before Christmas and got hit by a car and never came home. And it made me feel, it did a lot of things. It's a profound experience, and anybody who's gone through anything very traumatic realizes how that shapes you. And at that time, really felt very, very isolated and just needed more than ever to really have more conversation and to be able to talk through and process. And I realized really early how important our connection with each other is and being able to talk through things. And so my entire life has really been shaped by that. I think it's so important that we have good relationships, and somewhere through that, and just, it evolves, it changes, but somewhere through all of my life, not towards the end of my life, hope not the end of my life, towards these last few years, I realized just even more how important conversation is. And I'm such a curious, just natured person. I love asking questions. I love listening. And so when this magazine went for sale, I thought, you know what, this is a vehicle to have more conversations and to be able to really just set the framework for those conversations, to be supportive. I'm born and raised in Sioux City. This community is important to me. And I think that giving back is important. It's something that we should all do. We should all be thinking how in our own way we can give back. And for me, again, being conversation, I thought I can use this as a vehicle to have more conversations and support, the nonprofits, the small businesses, just people in general through, conversations about their health, and that's mental health as well. What we think, what goes through our mind is so important, and what, how we eat and exercise. And so that was my, I guess my why is it just made a lot of sense. It was never because I wanted to own a mag, but I wanted to be able to do more in creating these conversations. And I think when you know your why, it makes it easier to navigate and to make decisions. And so right now, for so many of us, we're all struggling with what's going on in the world with COVID, and how do we continue to exist, in with business as it was, and how do we shift that going forward? And so I started doing, about 5 weeks ago, doing Facebook Lives weeknights. And it was not a hard decision, because it was like, this isn't about the magazine. It's not about this print vehicle. It's about conversation. How else can I have conversation. And so very quickly, very easily, Facebook Lives. So that is one way. And hopefully right before this all happened, we were to the point of starting to do live events where we bring people together and we actually have those community conversations and have the engagement. And unfortunately, of course, the week that we were going to have that's when everything got shut down. So those will be sometime in the future. But right now, using virtual means to have those conversations is how we're doing it, or how I'm doing it. But I just can't encourage people enough to just really hone in on your why and what's important to you. And then in that way, you can show up and you can serve. And I think that's important to really always think, how can I serve people? Because if you're doing things for the right reasons, with the right intention, it always surfaces. And I think people feel that, and that resonates with them. So that is what or why I bought Siouxland magazine, just to give you guys a little bit of, this is soon to be announced, some news. I do business as Siouxland magazine, but we're actually incorporated as Empowering Conversations. And some of you may know, but Becca Photo started in this journey with me. She was the one that had asked about that, and as of March has decided to exit the business and put all of her focus on her other business that she has. And so this is solely my business right now, and I'm going to shift a little bit. We're still obviously going to have Siouxland magazine, but my Empowering Conversations, which is kind of my umbrella brand, is going to start to surface a lot more. And that's where I'm going to bring in, I'm a John Maxwell speaker, trainer, and coach. I love speaking. I love just helping people live their best life. Again, going back to my childhood, that's important to me. I realize how fast life goes. You blink your eyes and it's gone. And so I want people to harness it and love this life and participate in it. And so I'm going to be bringing, and that's going to surface, is this Empowering Conversations. So everything around conversations, Siouxland magazine will just be one way that we have those conversations in that print and virtual form. But you'll be seeing some other things happening in the near future. I'm really excited to share with everybody.
Well, thank you. I'm going to unmute everybody and go ahead. Does anyone have questions or comments for Stacie?
It was awesome.
Stacie, go ahead, Susan.
Okay.
Did I talk over to somebody else? Sorry, Shannon. Thanks so much for sharing that. It just really resonates so much, especially the empowering. My daughter and I have some things that we do together, and my last name is Erickson and her last name is Myler, and we have Empower, E-M, power.
Oh.
So
Clever.
yeah, it's like, it really resonates with me when I hear that, and thank you so much for keeping that going and for all the work that you do with that. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's nice to see somebody that matches my energy. I love when I just gravitate to that so much. And it was rough, my heart, when you were telling me about your mom, I too was walked through that same kind of thing at the same age. And so that was a struggle, having three older brothers and a dad that looks like, what am I going to do with this little girl? And so it really forms us very quickly, and we have choices to make very quickly as young people. So I applaud you. And I love John Maxwell. I do so much with John Maxwell. So I can't wait to pick your brain about some of that stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it really does shape you. And so for me, just the opposite. I was the oldest. I was 9, my sister was 6, and my brother was 6 months old.
Oh.
So I became kind of a caretaker, right? And so from that, like you said, it shapes you. And I feel like I've spent my entire life just wanting to care for everybody and nurture everything, right? You just, it's. Mm-hmm.
So Stacie, I've watched a couple of the interviews that you've done on live, and I just love seeing the conversation. It kind of makes me think about, I don't know why I had this train of thought, but so I'm 57, I'll be 58 this year, but I guess like during COVID, what I really, really missed is physically getting together with my friends and with my family. And so I thought a lot about how back in the day when I was like in grade school and then early teen years, we very commonly, like on a Sunday as a family, would like get in the car and just go for a drive. And back then, invariably, we'd end up at a friend's house or a family's, a family member's house, a relative, and they were happy to see you. They had no idea you were coming, but they were happy to see you, and you were invited in, and invariably you stayed for either, some kind of snack. We used to call it a little lunch, in Wisconsin, or a meal. And I, in a lot of ways, miss those days, just having real, genuine conversations with people. So it's great to see you doing the conversations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Does anyone else have questions or comments?
I think that's so important. I mean, now more than ever, right? Just opening up those conversations and letting people feel connected to something and the community. And that is so good. I too lost my mom to a fluke thing. But just like 7 years ago, she was crossing the street, got hit by a bus. So that old saying of like, hey, if I ever get hit by a bus, well, that happens. So those unplanned for things and how we're all just impacted, when we least expect it, I guess. And you just have to kind of learn to roll with it from, there on out. And so, I think that's encouraging to show like we just all there's a way to go on, and to do it with it, being empowered and all of that. It's so encouraging for everybody else kind of watching that unfold. So kudos to you.
Yeah. Well, and we're doing it together, right? We're empowered, but we're doing it because we're doing it together. So hearing, that both of you, there's out of this small group of people tonight, there's 3 of us who've experienced that. And I'm sure there's maybe more who haven't said, but we're not alone in that. And I think that is the biggest takeaway is sometimes when we're going through something and we're so consumed by grief or whatever it is that we're consumed by, we forget about the whole rest of the world. And we forget that other people are going through this too. And it feels so heavy. And the minute that we recognize there's somebody else that's felt this too, and they share that, and we have that shared humanity, it feels like we're being held. It feels, it just feels different. And it allows us to really, to release a little bit, to release and to move forward. And as you put it, to be empowered. It's very important. Yeah. That we recognize that. I think that's so important. We're not alone.
Yeah. Isn't that, it sounds like a strange concept to think that when I know someone else is hurting the same way I am or have, it makes you feel better. It seems like it shouldn't work that way, but it definitely. Yeah.
It makes you feel connected, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you have that connection, you're not alone. Yeah. You have a connection with other people, regardless of what that is. And there's, I just did a really cool poem about that. It was like a web with the connections, but it's like anytime a good connection or a sad connection, you still have a connection with somebody else. And sometimes I think that's what we're missing right now because we're more isolated. We have to be more intentional about our connections, about reaching out for that, and finding a new way to do that as well. But so thank you very much for sharing that. It was brave.
Well, and the other thing too is when you feed into someone's sorrow, when you're hurting and you see someone else hurting and you can feed into them, there's a release for you. You're getting healed at the same time because you're taking the focus off of yourself and you're feeding into someone else, which is making them feel better in the end.
Yeah. We need each other. We need each other. People need people.
Virtual comfort. Twofers.
And what I've seen, what my experience has been since we started having the stories is there's a lot of people that have felt comfortable sharing personal things, you know, about their stories, like very deeply personal things. And so it seems like we're providing a safe place. And I really applaud, you know, when people share those vulnerabilities, because I think that it gives other people then permission to do the same, and then to go ahead and to make that connection. And it's all in a safe place.
So true. Yes, I love that. Oh, Sherry, that is so good. I love that. Giving someone else permission to do it too. Yeah. Or modeling that for them. It's beautiful.
So Stacie, is your magazine have a particular theme? Is it all interview based, or how would you describe the magazine?
The magazine itself, not the theme, but the whole intention is we actually add this right to the cover. It's starting conversation. So it's all about starting conversation. We have a theme for each issue, and we speak to that theme at the beginning, which hopefully is a theme that is provoking thought and engaging people so that they want to have conversations. And then after that, we have 6 sections within the magazine that are consistent. In those sections, the first one is Converse, which is, again, all around starting conversations and getting that going. We've got Inspire, which is where we share story lessons learned, because I'm all about educating and inspiring. So it's, what are you going to learn from it? You don't read something that's, you know, a timeline or something of that nature. I want people to read it and go, oh, what can I learn from it? So it's Inspire is stories from a person or family, a nonprofit, and a small business. Then we've got Grow, which is about personal growth, business development. We've got Balance, which is our health, which has got the mental health, nutrition, physical health. Then Explore, which is taking care of our planet, and also enjoying it, like getting outside, getting unplugged. And then our final section is Enjoy, which is, again, combating. I can't stand when I hear people say there's nothing to do in Sioux City. First of all, it's Siouxland, and we've got so many little towns that make up our community. And if you are plugged in, there is a lot to do. You just need to get involved and engage. So it's giving suggestions on things to do. But yeah, but for the most part, all, again, it's I love the word empowering, which is empowering conversations, but it's empowering people. It's making sure that we are giving them all the tools that they need to live their best lives and be healthy and happy and engage in really good conversation.
Excellent.
Any other questions or comments for Stacie? Well, Stacie,
Stacie.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, Stacie, I also have been versed very well in a lot of John Maxwell stuff in a previous career. So I would be very interested if you're doing some John Maxwell coaching group stuff in the area. I would be very interested in maybe participating in some of that to get a little bit I think you always just get a little bit rejuvenated and fired up after a John Maxwell coaching session. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what really the biggest part of what I'm going to do with the Empowering Conversations site is doing my teaching and coaching through that. So hopefully in the next couple weeks, I'm trying to have that out in about a week or two here. One of my mentors who is in the John Maxwell team, I'm actually going to be featured on his Empowered Living site here. He's got over 2 million followers on Tuesday, the 26th. So that's really exciting. So I'm trying to get everything aligned so that it happens around the same time with that. But yes, I will be doing a lot more of that here in the very near future. So I'd love to have you participate.
oh, I would love that. I would love that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight, Stacie. And I look forward to hearing more conversations with you, the live conversations, and seeing what else, is going to be coming about, what other changes you have for us.
Yeah. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I do have to get off. I've got to get ready for my next interview.
Oh, no problem.
Here, but I'm going to be watching the recording and getting to hear all these other speakers. So
yes, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Bye, Stacie.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
So now speaker number 2, Kimberly Victor, one of my besties from California. So she and I are like partners in crime in Mary Kay. We're both sales directors, and I was in Mary Kay for a while before I really got to know Kimberly, because of course there's a little bit of difference between Iowa and Napomo, California, and really we only saw each other a couple times a year. And so, but I don't know, we've been really good friends for at least a couple of years now.
That's
And
two
we
years.
both have kind of a, I don't know, like a wacky sense of humor, and we both are lovers of dogs, and both passionate about the Mary Kay Foundation, and especially looking at, what to do to help women who have been victims of domestic violence. So Kimberly, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Cool. Thanks, Sherry. Yes, so in case you don't know where Napomo, California is, we are kind of smack dab in the middle of San Francisco. Is about almost 4.5 hours north, and LA is about, well, when there's traffic, it's a lot more, but about 3.5 hours south. So I'm right in the middle on the coast. And Shannon, I was noticing your background, of course, San Francisco. So of course I am like all about my giants, and grew up in the Bay Area. My husband's a native. He grew up in the Sunset District, and so we kind of met on a blind date, and it's been heaven ever since. But let me back up just a bit. So Sherry had asked me to share a little bit about the Mary Kay Foundation, and I can't just start off talking about that, because you need to know who I am and why I got started in this. And so, I am, as I mentioned, from California, born and raised in the Bay Area. I was adopted, and when I was 30, found my biological family, who my birth mom lives down in Burbank, and I have 2 children. They're in their 35 and 38 years old, and divorced a couple times prior to my marriage, that now where we're going on 20 years of bliss. It's amazing being locked up with this guy. It was like, we make jokes about that quite often, but we're having a great time. And, prior, in my previous marriages, there was a lot of domestic violence happening, and there was some violence growing up, but it wasn't, it was more just the emotional and just the things that I saw as a little girl. My brothers were older. I have 3 older brothers. And so it's very interesting. So that platform of, not having a mommy at 12 years old and just finding my way and figuring out who I was. And my dad just kind of farmed me out. He had no intention of raising a little girl. And so I, as young people do, they do things for attention, and I wasn't getting it. So I found my own way. In any case, fast forward out there a bit. When somebody approached me about Mary Kay, it was interesting because I didn't like women. I was very outspoken. I didn't like sales. My dad was in sales and drove a Cadillac, and I swore I'd never be like my dad, because he and I just didn't see eye to eye. He sent me home to my abuser when he found out I was being abused. He's like, you married him, you figure it out. So I had this whole concept of, wanting the respect of my dad, but yet didn't know how to walk that direction. Like I didn't know how it was there, but it wasn't attainable ever. And so what happens next is I joined Mary Kay because I was kind of that heckler person. I'll show you, I'll do it, and it's never going to work. Well, here I am 26 years later, and we have earned 14 cars, and 6 of them have been the pink Cadillac, and I have achieved some pretty amazing levels in our career, and traveled internationally, building and done a lot of things. And it's been an amazing journey, and such a, oh my gosh, personal growth. Oh, amazing. Found God, and so in my first 9 months when I signed my Mary Kay agreement, I gave my life back to Christ, joined Mary Kay, and found my birth parents. That's a lot in 9 months. Most people give birth to a little something that poops and needs to be fed. And here I am, I had all these things, and change is hard, and it sometimes can be poopy. And what I found was this is an amazing opportunity to grow. And I'm not just talking Mary Kay, I'm just talking about walking where God wants you to walk. There's opportunities out there, and we are so afraid sometimes to take those steps. So fast forward, Mary Kay in 1996 began an ambassador program and with the Mary Kay Charitable Foundation. So you have the Mary Kay pink jars, pink cars, all the Cadillacs and all that here. And then so the separate, completely separate business, if you will, the nonprofit business is the Mary Kay Foundation. And so when they started the foundation in 1996, I became one of the charter ambassadors for the program, and been rolling with it ever since. I did not roll out of bed ever wanting to start my own nonprofit, never an intention, and never thought that I'd be ever sharing my story. My husband and I, he took early retirement and we moved to Nipomo. We moved here about 7 years ago. And when I got here, it was beautiful. Nobody knew who I was. I could just walk freely, and I didn't have the curse of my past anywhere near me. Nobody, it was gone. It was just like it disappeared. And so it was just very interesting. It was very interesting. So the first 2 months, I'm a huge cyclist. I love athletic anything, but I love to ride my bike. And the second month we were here, I hit fire on my bicycle, so I didn't know anybody. And now I'm in a new place where I don't know anybody. So that all plays into this whole healing process of where do I go next? Like, what do I do? How do I meet people? What do I even do? People in my chamber, because you have to have sponsorships and you have to have things when you grow some kind of a nonprofit, because it's nonprofit. You got to have money coming in somewhere. So it's just learning how to grow through all that. And it was interesting. And when I did my first fashion show in 2015, when I did my first fashion show that year, it was very interesting because people really came out and they were like, it was nice to see that you're not just about Mary Kay, that they got the opportunity to see more about what the Mary Kay Charitable Foundation is all about. And if you want to go check it out, you can just do the marykayfoundation.org, and you can go see, all the statistics and the content that we have there. The foundation is designed for cancers, for us finding cures for cancers affecting women, and for domestic violence awareness. So I partnered with the what I call DVA, the domestic violence awareness side, because that's where I feel most attached. And so when I did my first fashion show, right before I did my first fashion show, why I did it, I had just started growing a small team here, and one of my girls, a little Latina girl, she came over, one of our consultants, and she came over to swap some product, and it was on a Thursday. Saturday, she texted a girlfriend and she said, hey, if you don't hear from me tonight by 9 o'clock, I'm probably dead, LOL. Texted that, literally. She has a 3 and a 5-year-old, and she's 26. And so she was here on Thursday. Saturday, that text went out to her girlfriend. Sunday morning, I get a call from my consultant saying that she had been murdered by her husband. Monday morning, I started my nonprofit. I didn't have the idea of anything until that Monday morning. And in 8 weeks, held my first fashion show. We raised over $6,200. And it's just kind of grown since then. We did over 12,000 this last year. And we're kind of like the only event in town. So Nipomo is very small. And so everybody just really looks forward to it. Last year, I just was, fumbling in my brain. I don't think I want to do this. It wasn't, Lord, please just, if I'm supposed to be continuing, please show me. And this gal, I was at a chamber Citizen of the Year night. We went to a dinner, and this young lady came up to me. She was pushing her sister-in-law, who was in a wheelchair. She came up and she goes, can I have a minute with you? And I was like, I'd never seen her before, no idea. And so I was like, sure. And we walked over, and for 20 minutes, this girl told me about that she was at my fashion show the previous year, and that she was in a very violent relationship. And because of the resources we were able to provide her, was able to get out of that relationship and live free. And it was like, wow, if that's not an answer from God, like, hello. It's one of those things when you hear the knock of opportunity, you roll with that. And so I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. I don't need to ask that question again, because what that told me is there's many more people out there that are finding the resources that they need, that are finding the answers, or maybe just knowing, like Stacie was talking, we're not alone. You know, we are not alone in so many of the ordeals that we walk through. And it doesn't matter if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're young, if you're old, it doesn't matter what part of the country you live in. We're so tied together. There's such a fine thread that loops us all together in so many different ways. And just knowing that I am able to provide awareness, and that I'm partnered with the Mary Kay Foundation, where it's a bigger platform to be able to market. And I don't mean market like in a salesy way, but to be able to share grants. Like the Mary Kay Foundation gives away $20,000 to 150 grants across America. And because, this just blesses my heart so much, because the shelter, the women's shelter that's here in our county, because of the foundation that I do with Fashions for a Purpose, because of my fashion show, they receive the grant every single year. So since I've been here, the grants that have been awarded in this area have been in excess of $80,000. And because of that generous opportunities, I was actually awarded the Businesswoman of the Year, and was honored with this proclamation and all kinds of stuff. Like, I just gotten off the plane. It was 3 days after I got back from Holland, and they were doing the awards and everything. And so I was maybe a little jet lag. And so it was a huge award, and such what a platform, like it's such a beautiful thing. And I'm still working on how to use that platform even more at this point, but it's just really, really great. We, at our fashion shows, we use a lot of the local people, like the boutiques and our models, and just bringing in, like, we have celebrity models, and I bring in over $10,000 worth of retail value items to do for silent auctions. We have a DJ, we have all kinds of fun things, lots of champagne, lots of treats, and the energy is really, really amazing. If you're ever in town in October, maybe next year, it would be a great thing. We're trying to think about maybe doing it virtually, and doing our fashion show virtually this year, but that's kind of in the making. So yeah, I don't know. We're one of the top 5 fundraisers in the whole Mary Kay Foundation, in the whole, like, across America. We're the top. I think we were number 4 last year. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I didn't know there was a ranking for this. I did not do it for the ranking. So that was kind of a fun thing. So, oh, and the one other thing is, I had an opportunity when I was in Holland to work with an organization called To Be Free, which helps rescue young women from the red light district in Amsterdam. And that was, it was heart-wrenching, but it was beautiful. It was so many great things that we did out there. So it's just been an opportunity. The healing for me has been priceless. My husband didn't realize that he was also a victim of domestic violence when he saw me speak the first time. And he came up to me many hours afterwards, and we had a conversation, and he didn't realize that men could also be affected. So it was, it's been a huge growth for the both of us, and we respect each other's triggers and all of those things. And so it's never been uncomfortable between us. And we were able to offer so much to the community. People stop me in the produce section all the time. It's like, oh, I was at your fashion show. And then they have a story to tell me. So it's interesting, you know, kind of like your soirees, you know, how you're talking about people just come out and start talking about, you know, their personal things, not knowing who the other people are. And so in the produce section, I've gotten to know a lot about the people in my community.
Well, and I think when you have a platform like that, and you have been real, and you have made yourself really vulnerable, telling your story. I think people, can really connect with you and feel like that they know you, and then feel, very safe to go ahead and share their story too.
Yeah, the first year, I'm trying to find that video and see if I can get it. I'll put it on my Fashions for a Purpose page. I will not put it on my regular Facebook page. It is very vulnerable to me. It's the first time I've ever told my story, and that's not even in its entirety. So this year I had prepared to share some deeper things. So there's kind of a blessing that I don't have to walk in that quite yet. And also, I've also partnered with as I mentioned, with our local women's shelter, and I'm a crisis line operator now for the last several months, and being able to help in that way too, because there was somebody there for me years ago, and so it's just kind of my way of being able to pay it back. So pay it forward.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to unmute all of you, or you can unmute. Okay. So who has questions or comments for Kimberly?
So Kimberly, so what exactly does your nonprofit do? How do you support the battered women, and what all do you do at your fashion show, and how does that look?
So the fashion show, that's a really great question. So the fashion show, basically we raise money, and we're able to give, we give some of the monies to our local shelter, but the majority of the money goes back to the Mary Kay Foundation, because they give them $20,000 anyway. So, but every single month I'm always doing something, whether it's a donation drive, a food drive, I'm working on the crisis line. But mostly what I'm finding is people just, again, they feel sheltered. They don't know that there's other people that are feeling the same thing. So having the resources, we have free counseling and all kinds of things that are available for everyone. You don't have to be a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault or whatever. We also, in this area, just 6 miles from here, is one of the highest transportation rates of human trafficking. Wow. Because we're so close to San Diego, LA, and then out to the valley and up to San Francisco. So we're like that pivotal point, and we have, I mean, it's unnerving of, just everything that goes on here. So, and then I also talked a lot about cyber stalking, and now even more. I'm so glad I had those conversations the last 2 years with my audience at Fashions for a Purpose, because cyber stalking it's real, and people aren't paying attention to it, especially when you have young people in your house. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. So it's monetarily, we're giving back, and then my time and involving the community as much as possible. But mostly it's about getting the resources, going into the high schools, giving the resources there, going to job fairs, not talking about Mary Kay, the job, but more talking about, just having my domestic violence awareness program on a table. And you would cry. I cried the first year. I just came home and just cried, because so many 15 and 16 years old came up to me. It was something, let me tell you. Yeah. Nothing we want our kids to have to go to school and hear or see. Wow. So it's been a big learning experience, let me tell you. But priceless. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah. Because I love how strong I've become through all of it. I love it. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah, good for you. I think that's when when you're where you should be, when you say, I don't care how hard it is, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah.
Right. Love it. I'm always scared to move on. Like I said, I'm scared to, it's scary talking about something that's been buried so long. Mm-hmm. And, but I know on the other side of it, how much healing that I'm going to get out of that, and hopefully be able to help other people.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You can tell you're so passionate about what you do, Kimberly. And so that carries through and also inspires others. So thank you for doing that. And the human trafficking thing, here in the city also, it's a lot of it just because of where we're located, right? The north and south interstates. And so in my prior life, I had some dealings with one of the organizations here that addressed that. And one of the things that I found horrific, I guess, is a lot of it's generational for us in the Midwest, is generational human trafficking. In other words, your father, brother, mother, uncle, whoever is the one that prostitutes you, sells you, whatever. And it goes generation to generation to generation. And then on the, in the tribes on the reservation, of course, nobody knows who has jurisdiction over that. So even when they are caught, I guess, if you will, nobody knows what to do with them because nobody has jurisdiction, so to speak. So it's just really interesting when you get into that. And yeah, so kudos to you for like all the hard work that you do with that. And you're right, it just gets so like almost overwhelming sometimes when you hear those stories, and it's just breaks your heart. But also it's scary, but it's just also, yeah, it just pulls at you. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So Kimberly, how do you contribute to such a good cause? I love good causes, and I can't think of a better cause. There's lots of good causes, but and sorry for sending you a Facebook request after you talked about cyber stalking, but but I'm really interested in your story, and I'm a greater good person, and I would love to see if I could help in some small way.
Oh my gosh, I love you right now. Yes, I will absolutely love to chat with you more about that. In fact, I called one of our big sponsors this year, and I have had a real hard time of reaching out to sponsors because everybody's going through something right now, and I don't want to create any extra anxiety, nor do I want to kind of clip my knees, if you will, for future opportunities. And so I've just really been kind of silent, except for this one. I mean, we still have things we have to pay for to keep our foundation running. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I talked to the bank, and they stopped all the fees, which they will do for the nonprofit. So if you know of a nonprofit, all they have to do is ask. And most of the banks are freezing all the fees that are due. So yes, I would be more than happy to chat with you. We have a link. There's a PayPal link that you can click onto. It should be on my Fashions for a Purpose page. It's a public page. It's got a little, it looks like a powder brush with a heart in it, and you should be able to see that. So, and if you'd like to either put your telephone number in the chat, or once I accept your request, you can message it to me, or however you want to.
Why don't we just do it that way?
Sure.
But yeah, no, that sounds awesome. But Sherry and I partnered on a thing where we I sent some Sherry's products, well, your products too, I guess, because I saw on the news how so many nurses, how their faces were getting tore up. And so we sent to both the hospitals here in town, to the ICU/COVID units, we sent them facial cream. And then they've got a little store called Sugar Shack, which makes awesome cookies. And so they had like a nurse's hat and scrubs and a heart. So we sent them a little care package to 30, 40, I don't remember what the number was, but to the nurses at both the hospitals and the staff in there too.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Shannon. That's awesome. So we're actually doing a Operation Grad, what's it called, Sherry? Where we're reaching out to the graduating students, seniors that weren't, you probably have better words for this too, because I've totally blanked on that.
But just to bless the graduating seniors who have not had the opportunity to feel like they sort of finished their year, especially like with the final ceremony, like, actual graduation, baccalaureate, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So just helping them to feel more, some closure with senior year, I guess. Yes. So
Thank you, Shannon.
Mhm.
So Kimberly, as you know, I hope to have the first fashion show for, raising money for the Mary Kay Foundation and then for CSADV, which is our local shelter, have the place booked, the date, the place, and then COVID happened and we socially isolated. And I felt the same thing, and for me, it's reaching out really the first time to people and not feeling like it was, the appropriate time right now to do that. So kind of waiting to see what happens in June. And then thinking about, can I get everything accomplished and organized and finished by, mid-October? Although it was encouraging to me that for the first year when you did the fashion show, it sounds like you decided and then 8 weeks later, you put it on.
It was organic and it happened, and we had about 90 people show up. And we were selling tickets for $20 a pop and feeding them like you wouldn't believe. Like we had all this like homemade food just coming in everywhere, and it was chaotic, but yet it was so awesome. And now we're like super organized. Everything's absolutely gorgeous, and we it's just so much different. Like pretty tablecloths and everything matches, and everything's like little high pinky. We have all this like catered food now, and it's really, really fun. But let me know what month. Maybe I'll come out and partner with you.
Well, it's October, so
that one's kind of rough for me.
Yes, I know. Yes.
Yeah, and you know what we were considering, but with all the anxiety and everything that's going on, and with the uncertainty, we just really decided to and with not being able to have the sponsorship like we'd like, but I'd still like to do something because I still want our shelter to be able to get the grant for next year. So I'm working with the foundation right now to find out where we're doing with that.
Yeah, when we found out that information that, that the individuals that raise the most money, that those shelters, are like a shoe-in for the grant, that's what really spurred me on. And I think, starting at the beginning of June, I think that needs to be my why as far as the fashion show. And to remember, it is not about me. It is not about if I ask an individual for help or a donation or, whatever, that it is not for me. It is for other women, for the cause. So
well, once the restaurants start getting back up and going a bit better, well, I don't know how it is there, but we just literally opened up restaurants, and yeah, it's kind of hit and miss if people want to go right now or not, because everybody's so confused about what to do. But one of the things was they will do like a spirit night or the sponsorship night where they'll donate back a certain portion for all the drinks and food that's purchased that night. Mm-hmm. And so I reach out to about 5 different restaurants that do that. We get about $400 per restaurant. Mm-hmm. So that's another $2,000 that's just organic, and it's fun, and
everything helps.
Meet people, and I sit there and eat dinner there too, and it's a blast. Mm-hmm. So supporting the community while we're doing our same thing.
Right. So, well, does anyone else have comments or questions for Kimberly? Well, I want to thank you for being on all the way from Napomo. And, as we've been in this situation, I really have tried to look at like kind of what the blessings are, not just what the curses are. But, with having to go virtual, it has given the opportunity to have people from really all over participate, not just in this, but in other events, because we're all virtual. So thank you very much.
Anytime, girlfriend.
Yes. So now our third speaker tonight is my good friend, Tricia Frederick. And Tricia and I met, actually, I just like Facebook stalked her, not really. I just had decided, what was it, like 2 years ago, Trish? I
think it was.
Yeah, I just started looking for women, as far as like what was posted on Facebook that looked like they were professional, had their act together, they were motivated to go places. And so I just like coldly sent her a friend request. She accepted, and then, told her I just really wanted to network with women, and we met for a drink, and we've been fast friends since. And Tricia's been in a couple of different positions since we met, but currently working at Heritage Bank and like just killing it now. So take it away, Trish.
Thank you, Sherry. And thank you, Kimberly. I really enjoyed your story. I'm sure at some point down the line we'll cross paths, and I too would be interested in helping with your cause and helping Sherry with her cause here. When she first brainstormed about her fashion show, I already offered everything I can do to help bring her in some little models and some different ideas and some staff to help staff it. And we do have a really amazing community here in Siouxland that is built on a lot of volunteer. My volunteer resume probably packs a lot more wallop than my professional one, which I think is pretty awesome myself, but that's just me. I think that when you give back to the community, you network with a group of people who also are like-minded. And so that's one of the things that I really liked about meeting with Sherry for the first time, is that was when I was I had made a job change into, I work for a mortgage broker. And I do have my brokerage license. So I am a licensed mortgage loan originator. I carry my own license. I carry the same license that my bank carries. Most loan officers do not. They work under the bank. So with me doing the brokerage, I did everything. I did the processing of my loans. I dealt directly with the underwriters. I dealt with the closing companies, ordered the title work, the appraisal, all of those things. And I work in all the areas, FHA, VA for veterans, conventional, USDA, so a lot of government-based programs as well. But we also work with the state and local governments for housing, first-time home buyers, programs, and assistance for grants. So there's a lot of different things that I do in my everyday job, but I also needed to work for a company that would support me in my community. And I'm very active with the Support Siouxland Soldiers group, working with our veterans, and also with doing some things with Noah's Hope Animal, and then also with breast cancer awareness. I sat on the board for Komen for 7 years, and I was the volunteer coordinator for our Race for the Cure here, as well as working in a lot of different food bank of Siouxland, provide some things with Council on Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence, actually work closely with them with some of my current home buyers. So it's very nice to be involved in a group that understands the foundation of volunteering and in the community. I guess when Sherry and I first met, what she didn't know is the position that I held was a stepping stone. It was a difficult choice to make. I mean, it's hard when you learn so much, and sometimes you learn what to do and sometimes what not to do in your positions or from your mentors, I guess I would say. So it became very clear to me that I needed to find a place to expand where I had currently been. I wasn't fulfilling all the needs and checking all the boxes that I wanted to check and being as successful as I believed I could be. And so I went shopping for a new bank, and I did some interviewing with some of my partners, my referral partners in town, and I was led to Heritage Bank, where it quickly became apparent that this is probably going to be where I will retire. And I tell them all the time, you can fire me, but I'm going to keep showing up. So, there's that. So it's a very good atmosphere. We just lost our founders over the weekend. They were 97 and 100 years old. They have been dating since they were 16 and 19 years old. And they were a tremendous love story. their parents, they met at a 4-H tour. He was coming through a tour and she was doing something with her 4-H project, her cattle. And they met, fell in love, and against their family's wishes, they continued to date and they eloped and spent, I think, 79 years together. Married and 81 years together total with their children around the Midwest. And then they created the Heritage Bank. So it's a very good foundation. It's a family-owned bank that is regional. We're in South Dakota, Iowa, and Minnesota. So it's a great organization. But they offer me the opportunity to help. And through this whole process, I think through COVID, I think we've invested a lot of money in technology. So in order to be able to work quickly and efficiently in the finance world, you really need to be ahead of the game technology-wise. And we have been very fortunate that we have been able to upload documents through an app that we have that's so secure, and everything that we've done, they allow us the opportunity to do all the things that that is required. You know, it used to you think about it as it's just mortgage banking. It's helping someone with a purchase of their home. It's helping a first-time home buyer. It's helping someone get into their next home or their dream home. But you know, really, it's a lot more than that. When you look at a pandemic, I've been able to help so many people that we're on the verge of losing everything. You know, loss of income, loss of a spouse's job, loss of bonuses, things you don't think of. And you never know how close to the edge people are teetering and living. They are. I had several clients that said, you know, if I don't get this refinance done, I'm gonna sink. And I was able to help people shorten their loan, lose the interest rate that they had that was in excess of, I mean, we beat it by points, sometimes 2-3 points. I had people coming to me that were still at 6 and 7% interest. I was able to get them in the low 2s, cut their loan time from a 30-year down to a 15-year or a 10-year. They were able to do that with a cash out refinance, pay off all the debt that they had, and reset all that credit in the event that the next 3 months of their life, we didn't know, we still don't know what our next 3 months are going to look like. These people are all so grateful that they've got a lower payment, a better interest rate, paid off all that debt, and now they're not worried about how they're going to feed their families or how they're going to be able to pay their bills. You know, and it's very, you know, gratifying to be able to have felt that and to work with that with my referral partners. So many of the realtors were struggling to find how to manage through this pandemic and with being a shutdown. And so I did help some of my referral partners by showing them, you know, you can reach out to your clients, you can offer them this refinance and just let them know, hey, I care about you. I care about you. This is what's happened for some of my clients. This might work for you. I don't know where you're at, but I just want to reach out. And so many of those people either reached out to me and said great things about the realtors that referred me. And I, of course, backed them up with how much they care about their clients. And some of them have listed their homes with them and said, hey, I'm ready to downsize, or I'm ready to upsize, or I'm ready to do this or that. So not only did it just create the sense of security, but the people who did do the refinances, they are never going to go anywhere else. They're going to continue to utilize that same referral partner that sent them to me. And what a great opportunity to be able to help, you know, cement those relationships. You know, what I do what I do because of the relationship building. I think that I probably am a little bit more detail oriented for my clients. And I think that I care a little more. I think my clients know that I care. I don't have to sit down and do credit coaching. I don't get paid extra for it, but I do it. I don't know why other lenders don't. I don't know if they don't know or if they just don't care. And I asked my boss that question last week, and she said, I said, I don't know if they're just not paid. I'm paid on 100% commission. I don't make a salary plus like many lenders do. But I don't think that they do as much as I do because of it. And I think that some people just, I never want to be that person that just shows up for the paycheck or doesn't care. Because if I do that, then I need to stop doing what I'm doing. You know, you have to do everything that you do with purpose. You know, like John Maxwell would say, find your sweet spot and work to your sweet spot, sell to your sweet spot. And, you know, I feel like it's relationship building. You know, those first time home buyers, they always remember how they felt on that day. There's so many lenders that, I mean, the hardest part of this quarantine has been not being able to go to the closings. That's my favorite thing. And there's so many lenders that just don't go. They just are like, whatever, that's just the end of the sale. No, that's the beginning of the relationship moving forward. That's your opportunity to ask for more referrals, to check on how you did, to see the excitement. I wouldn't want anybody else to be there handing them over the keys. I just couldn't imagine it. So the frustration of this quarantine has been tough. The bonus of the quarantine has been, I think it's going to help everyone in the world understand that we don't all, I mean, we can do things efficiently from a distance. I think we can all be more productive, and then hopefully open us up some more time for that relationship building, that friendship building, that FaceTime with people, and make it even more important and more valuable. So I do think that, you know, this position that I have has created, you know, it's I guess it's filled some sense of a hole that I had in my career in a previous position. So they allow me every day to just, I'm allowed to sell money to help people get their dreams. And I do it at a really good, efficient cost, and I do it really well. And I truly enjoy helping and empowering people to get into either their first home or out of their starter home and into their next home, or, you know, watch that family grow, and help them not only just them, it doesn't stop at that. It's to help them understand how to continue to move forward with their finances in a productive way. Here's what you need to do extra to keep yourself on track. Here's how you build more equity in this home. Here's how you use your starter home to build you equity into your next home. Here's how you use this to complete your dream the rest of the way down. It's not just a wham bam one and done. You're in the house, I sold you the mortgage, goodbye. It's just the beginning. And so when you follow along with those, and Sherry can attest that, you know, I have dinner with a lot of my past clients. You know, I've got one gal who's going to teach me how to can this year. I'm going to do salsa. I've got another one that's going to teach me how to make tamales. Pretty excited about that. They're kind of tough to come by. There's only a few places I really like them at. So, you know, I've got another sets of couples. I have some very unique clientele in different nationalities that do not speak English. So it's always interesting to try to keep that communication open. I get a lot of, I call myself a loan officer / social worker at times. I've actually went to conferences with my clients and helped them get set up on the dojo system so they can communicate with their teachers. I've had to interpret notes from the teacher and when their kids have been in trouble and let them know what their kids were doing. They call me when they need their home warranty used. I'm over there meeting plumbers. There's a lot of things that go kind of outside the box for what I do. Today I had a client send me a letter and he wanted to know what he's supposed to do with it. And I said, you're supposed to mow your lawn. They're going to mow it for you and they're going to charge you a lot of money. You need to get a lawnmower and mow your grass. And he said, okay, thanks. I said, mow tomorrow. He said, okay. So he wasn't quite understanding. So we'll see how that happens, see how he works through that. I'll have to do a drive-by and make sure. But, you know, it's a lot of different things. It's for me, it's relationship building and it's standing apart from the rest of the crowd. You know, sometimes it's heartbreaking. Sometimes, you know, things don't always work out for people or something happens and it delays something. You know, this COVID pulled the rug out from under a lot of people. But I didn't quit on any of them. We haven't given up. And sometimes there's some lessons in there too. Sometimes I have to say, well, if you'd have done what I told you back in February, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. But, everybody has to live and learn, and sometimes they have to learn their lessons the hard way. But it's enlightening. It's fun. I love putting my referral partners together. Shannon, I have some more people I'm going to be sending your direction, and I've set Sherry up with some people recently as well. I paired Sherry up with some of my real estate partners, and she's been doing some closing gifts for them. So that's been really nice, and they always look amazing. And she gets to personalize them, so she gets to be a little bit artful with it. So, we'll say, oh, they have some teenage girls, or oh, this, or they have that, or this is their skin complexion. Can you do something for them? This is where they work. This is what kind of work they do. And she really does a nice job of perfecting a nice basket that works for the clients. And then I always have, clients, they always want to know about all different things products and stuff that we offer. And, I always tell them that there's always that they'll call me with the letter, the credit life disability. So Shannon, I'll be sending you all those, because I think credit life disability is a horrible idea. Even though we sell a product, I think it's awful. So I will refer them to do a life insurance policy. I think that's a better way to guarantee for someone's death, is rather than do something that disintegrates with the loan. I think that's a waste of foolish money when you can build a product with Shannon and do something different there. So I always do try to work within our, network of people in our community. I think that it's, when you support your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, and your business associates, I think it just makes for a much, better work environment, atmosphere, and community when you've got everybody invested and involved. So I don't know. I don't know if is there any questions, anything else about what I do?
Everybody. So does anyone have comments or questions for Trish?
Well, I know that everything you're saying there, Trish, is true, because you are one of the people with the biggest hearts that I know. And I love that no matter what job you were doing, you'd be that type of person, but knowing that you can make such an impact for people to help them out in situations like giving them credit advice and going that extra mile for them. Because I literally don't know any mortgage bankers, and I have some friends that do that, and I love them to death, but they don't do what you do. And so that's why you're a great referral partner with me too, not just because of the business, but because you're a good person.
Thank you.
I could feel that all the way in California, girl. I love
Thank you.
the love story of those two. Oh my gosh. I was just melting into that story big time. And then just the extra mile, always be the and then some girl. That's what I've always been kind of running my life with. And seems like you are that person. And no wonder Sherry is attached to you.
Yeah.
Well, and I was sitting here thinking, I wonder when she's going to be making the tamales.
Right? I know. I want the recipe
You
too.
can come.
Actually, I
You
was
can
just thinking I
come.
was going to invite myself for dinner.
Yeah,
We just need
it's
to have a little class
there's a
on
lot
how to
of
do
that.
it.
I mean, you just make friends with them. We just get, I do get very attached to my clients.
Any other comments or questions for Trish?
I think it was really informative. That was great.
Yeah.
Really helpful. I'm sitting here going, oh, maybe I need to refinance my house.
What's your interest rate at?
I think it's 4 something.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh, you should call me.
Okay, I'll do it.
And I won't lie to you. If I can't help you, if it's not worth it, I'll run the numbers and explain it to you. If it's not worth it, I won't do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Ask Shannon.
For sure.
I can't be the rate. If I know that I can't be the person for you, I won't do it.
Yeah.
I went with someone else, but I ran what I had in front of me, and she goes, no, do what's best for you. That's the right thing to do.
Yeah, with where he
we
was
didn't know
at.
we didn't know COVID was going to happen.
Yeah.
No, if you'd waited, I'd have beat the smoke off of them, right?
I know.
Knock their socks off.
But what you say
Jen,
there,
do
she's
you even
telling
want
the
to know?
absolute truth. She's
Do you
telling
want
the
to know
absolute
how low I was able to go?
Yeah.
how